I remember the day Matthew stepped into my life as if it were yesterday. I was tucked away in a cozy little cafe, nursing the cheapest coffee on the menu while attempting to sort through my jumbled thoughts. That's when he walked in, effortlessly resembling the character from a movie scene. There were no dramatic lights or sweeping soundtracks, just the soft jingle of the door and the mingled scents of stale coffee and his cologne filling the air. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, his smile radiating warmth as he gestured toward the empty chair across from me. "Go ahead," I managed to reply, striving to keep my composure despite the surprise of his sudden appearance. From that moment, we connected as effortlessly as two puzzle pieces clicking into place. We discovered countless shared interests, from binge-watching cheesy TV shows to debating the best pizza toppings, pineapple, of course, being the undisputed winner. Our casual meetings quickly deepened into something more significant, and it felt like we had known each other for ages. Before long, marriage was a serious topic of conversation. But the real challenge awaited me. Meeting his parents felt like stepping into a lion's den with a stake tied to my back. Their smiles carried an unsettling air of judgment, as if they were silently appraising whether I measured up to their expectations. "So, you're the one Matthew can't stop talking about," his mother remarked, her tone icy and less than inviting. "That's me," I replied, doing my best not to let her intimidating presence rattle me. It didn't take long for them to express their desire for a prenup. While I had no interest in their wealth, their approach left a sour taste in my mouth. "I'll sign your prenup," I said, "but here's my condition. If one of us cheats, the cheater owes $320,000. Matthew's expression turned to shock, as if I had splashed him with ice-cold water. "Babe, I'd never cheat on you," he insisted, looking genuinely earnest. "Yeah, well, my ex said the same thing before I caught him red-handed," I shot back. It was all or nothing. Matthew eventually conceded, though his parents were far from pleased. We thought that settled things, but more surprises were in store. One evening, curled up on our creaky old couch, a piece we often discussed replacing but couldn't bear to part with because of the memories, it was easy to get lost in planning our dream trip to Italy. The gentle hum of the TV faded into the background as we animatedly discussed our plans for Catania. "Imagine it, Matthew. The food, the wine, the art. We have to go," I exclaimed, my eyes sparkling with excitement. Matthew chuckled and pulled me closer. "Janice, you had me at food, but let's be real, our bank account is more suited for backyard camping than jet-setting to Catania." I playfully nudged him. "Then we'll save up. We can cut back on things we don't need, like your video games." "Not the video games," he feigned horror. "Take my shirts, my shoes, even my precious coffee maker, but please spare the games." We both laughed. That playful banter was typical of us. Dreaming big while embracing the simplicity of our lives, finding joy not just in grand adventures but also in the little things. On Saturday mornings, Matthew would attempt to cook breakfast. He wasn't exactly a culinary wizard, but he had perfected scrambled eggs and toast, which he served with pride alongside his less than stellar coffee. "I'm feeling scrambled eggs today. What do you think?" Matthew asked as he headed to the kitchen. "Only if you promise not to burn the toast this time," I teased, taking over the coffee duties. One day, while we were doing the dishes, a mundane chore that felt special simply because we were doing it together, Matthew broached a topic we had been dancing around. "Janice, we need to talk about, starting a family," he said, breaking the comfortable silence. I paused, a plate in hand. "I know, it's just scary, isn't it? What if it doesn't work out for us?" Matthew dried his hands on a towel and turned to face me. "Then we'll face it together. But we won't know until we try, right?" "How hard can it be?" he chuckled, affection lacing his voice. "Famous last words, huh?" I replied, knowing that was us, facing whatever life threw our way together. But then his mother began dropping not-so-subtle hints about grandchildren. "Janice, dear, when are you going to give me some grandbabies? You're not getting any younger, she'd say, her voice sweet but her intentions crystal clear. I'd bite my tongue, flash a smile, and chirp, "We're on it, right, Matthew?" He'd chime in, "Mom, chill out. These things don't happen overnight." As time passed, the pressure mounted, not just from his mom but from within ourselves. We both longed for a family, but things weren't unfolding as we'd hoped. Our home often felt tense, especially with Kayla, Matthew's sister, adding to the strain. She had taken up the new hobby of making my life difficult, her sharp words cutting through the peace we tried to maintain. Everything came to a head one Sunday during what was supposed to be a serene and easygoing lunch. Just as we were about to start eating, Kayla barged in uninvited, and the atmosphere tense immediately. Her eyes swept the room like a hawk surveying a battlefield. "Well, isn't this a quaint little setup?" she sneered, eyeing the modest meal I had prepared. I forced a smile, trying to keep the peace amidst the brewing storm. "It's just a simple meal, Kayla. Nothing fancy. Please have a seat," I said as we gathered around the table. Kayla wasted no time diving into her usual tirade. "You know, Janice," she started, her voice thick with condescension, "I was talking to Mrs. Kathleen the other day. Her grandson just became a dad. It made me think, when will you and Matthew have some good news for us? Time's ticking, you know." My cheeks burned with a mix of embarrassment and irritation. I glanced at Matthew, seeking his support, but he appeared suddenly captivated by his meal. "Mom, seriously," he mumbled, though his tone lacked conviction, and we all sensed it. Unfazed, Kayla pressed on. "I hate to be blunt, but you're not getting any younger. You work hard for your money, Matthew. Why waste it on Janice if she can't fulfill her basic duties as a wife? Hiring help for cleaning and cooking would be much more efficient, don't you think?" That comment was the final straw. "I'm doing my best here, Kayla," I blurted out. "It's not like I don't want children. And as for the house and cooking, I didn't realize marriage came with a job description." Kayla scoffed. "Marriage isn't a free ride, Janice. You have responsibilities, and frankly, you're not meeting them." Tension thickened the air, and tears welled in my eyes, but the deepest wound came from Matthew's silence. When he finally spoke, it wasn't to defend me. "Mom's right. Maybe we should consider getting some help around here. It would take some pressure off you too," he suggested. His words felt like a betrayal, and I suddenly felt starkly alone. As Kayla's visits became more frequent, so did her criticisms. She scrutinized every corner of her home, pointing out flaws. "You call this clean?" she sneered. "Looks like a pig-sty to me." Then came the jabs about my appearance. "Is that what you're wearing? A wife should dress to please her husband. No wonder Matthew seems exhausted. He comes home to this." I tried to stand my ground. "Kayla, I dress for myself, not for Matthew. He's tired because he works hard, not because of my outfit." But it was futile. Kayla had made up her mind about me, and nothing I said could sway her. Matthew's lack of support cut deep. Every night after his mother left, we would argue. "Why won't you defend me? She's bulldozing over us, and you just stand by." "Janice, she has her ways." "What do you expect me to do? Kick my mom out?" "No, but I expect you to be my partner, to stand with me, not against me." It became clear that this situation was more than just Kayla's disapproval. It was a test of our marriage, a trial of whether we could withstand the relentless barrage of her criticisms. As the weeks passed, it dawned on me that this was not a temporary phase. It was a full-blown assault. If we didn't take action soon, there might be nothing left to salvage. The atmosphere between Matthew and me turned icy, exacerbated by Kayla's intensified critiques. Life at home became unusually tense, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Matthew was keeping something from me. It wasn't just the usual stress from work. There was an unsettling change in his behavior that hinted at deeper secrets. It started subtly with his phone habits. Matthew, who had always been an open book, began stepping out of the room for calls, particularly those from someone named Austin, allegedly a new colleague who had a lot of questions. One quiet evening, trying to keep the conversation light, I asked, "Who's this Austin at work?" Matthew's reaction was instant and telling. His body stiffened, and he looked away, a clear signal of his discomfort. "Just a new guy at the office. Really inquisitive," he answered too quickly, avoiding my gaze. But there were more troubling signs. Matthew, who had previously been indifferent to fashion trends, started transforming his wardrobe. Out went the graphic tees and faded jeans, replaced by neatly pressed shirts, sleek trousers, and even a new cologne that lingered around him each morning. "What's with the new look? Planning to model for a department store catalog?" I joked, trying to mask my growing concern. One morning, as Matthew styled his hair in a new way, I joked, "Planning to model for a catalog." He gave a nonchalant smirk. "Why not spruce things up a bit? No harm, right?" But the late nights began to pile up. "Sorry, love. This project is killing me. I'll be home late," his texts would read, night after night. Often, it wasn't until the early hours of the morning that I'd hear the key turn in the door. Something felt off, a gnawing sense of unease that wouldn't fade, driven by a mix of fear and a desperate need for the truth. I hired a private investigator, a decision that felt like it belonged in a melodramatic detective series. The results were just as dramatic. Inside a plain envelope were photographs and a voice recording. The images showed Matthew with another woman, their closeness unmistakable, while the intimate conversations on the recording shattered any illusions I'd held. Here was a man in love, but not with me. As I sat alone, absorbing the cold truth laid bare on my kitchen table, I realized these pieces of evidence could be crucial if our marriage crumbled into a divorce. The photographs transformed memories of our shared life into jagged fragments of betrayal, and the voice recording taunted me, echoing every tender word he'd ever spoken to me. Yet I kept this devastating discovery to myself, bearing the weight of heartbreak alone. I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. I needed time to plan and figure out how to approach the likely end of our marriage with some semblance of grace. In the days that followed, Matthew and I continued our charade. He wore the mask of the affectionate husband while I played the role of the content wife, our conversations peppered with artificial laughter and hollow words. "Everything all right?" he would ask, concern lacing his voice. "Just tired, you know. Work's been crazy," I would reply, the lie tasting sour in my mouth. Then one day, as I passed by Matthew's slightly open office door, the truth spilled out. He and Kayla were discussing not trivialities, but the future of our relationship, with grave seriousness. "I can't do this anymore, Mom," Matthew confessed, his voice heavy with weariness. "It's not just about Janice not having kids, it's more than that. I feel like we're just coexisting, not truly together." Kayla's response was razor sharp. "But think about it, Matthew. She hasn't given you a child. What else does she bring to our family?" Her words were cold and calculated, and the weight of their implications confirmed the lonely path ahead. This wasn't merely a rough patch, it was a profound disconnect that might be irreparable. As I stood there, feeling the fabric of our marriage unraveling, I knew tough decisions awaited me, decisions that would redefine my future. "We can't miss out on a generous gift from her, can we?" Kayla's cynical tone pierced me deeply. They had a plan: keep me around just long enough to enjoy the lavish gifts from her upcoming birthday celebration before cutting ties without a second thought. "Just a bit longer," Kayla had said, her venomous smirk etched into my memory. I stood frozen, fury and disbelief coursing through me. It was clear they intended to discard me as easily as crossing off an item on a grocery list. The sting of betrayal ignited a fiery determination within me. They saw me as nothing more than a pawn in their twisted game, but I was resolute in proving I was no one's fool. A few days later, we sat down for a family dinner that felt more like a scripted play than a warm gathering. Kayla, with a calculated smile, turned to me. "So, Janice dear, what do you have planned for my birthday? Something special, I hope." I met her gaze with a calmness that belied my inner turmoil. "Actually, Kayla, I've been thinking about arranging a dinner at the city's most exclusive restaurant, an evening you won't forget." Her eyes sparkled with greedy anticipation as she exchanged a satisfied glance with Matthew. They thought they had cornered me, but little did they know, I was already steps ahead in a different game. "Oh, Janice, that sounds wonderful. Just close family, keep it intimate," Kayla purred with feeding sweetness. "Absolutely, Kayla. We'll make it a night to remember," I replied, the words tasting like ashes in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Kayla's 60th birthday felt like a march toward a day of reckoning, each of her smirks and Matthew's dismissive nods fueling my resolve. My plan was simple yet bold: host the lavish dinner as a supposed gesture of goodwill, then spring a monumental surprise. As the plans unfolded, the devil lay in the details. The night before the party, our home was charged with silent tension. Matthew lounged on the couch, absorbed in his phone. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" he asked, not bothering to look up. "You could say that," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing within me. The day arrived, and as guests filled the opulent dining room we had reserved, the air was thick with anticipation. My heart raced, not with nerves but with the thrill of the imminent revelation. Kayla, basking in the spotlight, reveled in the grandeur. "Oh, Janice, you've truly outdone yourself." "This place is divine," she announced, her voice carrying across the room. As the evening progressed, laughter and stories filled the air, masking the undercurrents of tension swirling around us. Just as dessert plates were cleared, the moment I had been waiting for arrived. The waiter approached discreetly, whispering the staggering cost of the dinner, $10,000. I handed over my credit card, unnoticed by most, when suddenly, as if on cue, Matthew dropped his bombshell. Janice, it's time for the truth. I'm done with this. With us. I want a divorce, he declared, his words cutting through the festive noise and suffocating the atmosphere. Before I could fully process his statement, Kayla interjected sharply. Well, now that it's out in the open, it's best you leave, Janice. Tonight is about family, and you're no longer part of ours. The room fell into stunned silence, every gaze fixed on me. Yet I refused to crumble. With composure I didn't know I possessed, I prepared to face the storm. I hardly felt the weight of my decision as I rose from my seat, nodded curtly, and walked out without a word. The chill of the night air hit me, a stark reminder of the finality that loomed ahead. As I made my way to a friend's apartment, the night closed in around me, reflecting the cold journey I was about to undertake. But I walked on, resolved to forge a new path from the wreckage of my past. With steely determination setting in, I finalized my plans and packed my essentials, transforming the numbness of betrayal into decisive action. This was not just the end of one chapter, it was the beginning of another. As I zipped up my last suitcase, my phone buzzed insistently. I tried to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of me. Kayla's frantic voice blared from the other end. Janice, the payment didn't go through. You need to fix this right away. Her demand rang hollow and ironic in the moment. Anticipating this move, I had already blocked access to our shared accounts, knowing it might be Matthew's first line of defense. Oh, Kayla, what a shame. But since I'm no longer part of the family, as you've made abundantly clear, I'm afraid you'll have to sort this out yourself. The fury crackling through the phone was almost a melody to my ears after the betrayal I'd endured. The chaos that followed, stories of the restaurant staff demanding payment, Kayla's escalating tantrums, and the police arriving to calm her down, was the perfect ending to the farce my marriage had become. In the end, it was Matthew and Kayla who scrambled to cover the bill, a fitting consequence for their deceit. The morning after the dinner felt like waking up after a storm. I returned to what had once been our shared home for one last time, divorce papers in hand, ready to confront the remnants of our relationship. The atmosphere was electric, almost palpable, as if it could be sliced with a knife. Matthew and Kayla were in the middle of a heated discussion, their animosity thick in the air. You've got some nerve showing up here after last night, Matthew spat, his expression twisted with anger. Great, you've humiliated us in front of the entire city. Do you understand what it's like to have the police called because of your antics? People were laughing, Kayla added, her words sharp as knives. I faced their fury with a calm I barely felt inside. Is shame your primary concern right now? I retorted, tossing the divorce papers on the table and placing the damning photos of Matthew's infidelity on top. Matthew's face drained of color as he picked up the photos, his mother looming over his shoulder. Their anger quickly dissolved into shock, then morphed into panic as the gravity of the situation sank in. And let's not overlook the prenup, shall we? I continued, my voice steady and unwavering. You stray, you pay, precisely $320,000. Kayla's face twisted into a snarl. You wouldn't dare. You can't do this to us. Oh, but I can, and I will, I replied, my tone devoid of warmth. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, Matthew shifted his approach. Please, let's discuss this. We can find a solution. A bitter, mirthless laugh escaped me. Find a solution. Do you think a few words can undo everything? No, Matthew, it's over. Kayla, ever the manipulator, tried to soften her tone, dripping with false concern. Janice, darling, think about what you're doing. This will destroy us. That ship has sailed, Kayla. You should have thought about that before. Their pleas turned to desperate entreaties, frantic attempts to salvage whatever dignity remained, but the time for words had passed. The moment for action had arrived. In the end, Matthew had no choice but to borrow money from his parents to settle the financial arrangements with me. As I walked away from that house for the last time, check in hand, I felt an immense weight lift from my shoulders. After everything that had transpired, I was finally free. I used the money from Matthew to make a down payment on a modest yet cozy place of my own. It's incredible how much peace you can find in a home that's entirely yours, where every nook feels like a sanctuary from the storms of a past life. Now, life is quieter, and that's exactly how I prefer it. I have a job that keeps me busy, friendly neighbors who greet me with smiles, and a small garden that's mine alone to cultivate. Occasionally, I hear bits of gossip about Matthew and Kayla. Just the other day, while picking up coffee at the local cafe, a popular spot in the community, I ran into someone from the old neighborhood. After exchanging pleasantries, they leaned in, their voice dropping to a hush. "Hey, have you heard the latest about your ex and his mom?" Their eyes sparkled with intrigue. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet detached. "Can't say that I have." "Do tell." They seem to be at odds. Apparently, Kayla isn't too pleased with Matthew's new girlfriend. Rumor has it they've been arguing nonstop. It puts your past situation in a new light, doesn't it? We quickly moved on from the topic, but as I walked away with my coffee, I felt a deep sense of relief. There was a time when such news would have disturbed me, but now it was just another story in someone else's drama. These days, my biggest concerns revolve around whether my tomatoes will ripen before the squirrels get to them, or if I'll ever master yoga without looking like a newborn deer. Life is simpler, quieter, and significantly more satisfying on this side of the chaos.